Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I gotta tell you, every once in a while, we get to tell a story that I feel is not only important, but it's a good story because it shows how somebody who has every reason to play the victim doesn't. And let's be honest, at some time in all of our lives, we will be a victim of something. I'm not trying to associate myself with the horror that happened to this gentleman or the horror that happened to the many other victims of this gentleman. But it is those that rise above and decide to take charge of their own life, no matter what the obstacles are, that truly flourish in the society and within the world around us, no matter what. So this guy right behind me, he's a man named Jim Clemente, okay? So he's a retired FBI profiler. He's a writer, an FBI consultant. He's an author. He's got a lot of books out there. And he's also a keynote speaker. You probably know a lot of his work if you watch Criminal Minds. So the real story behind this gentleman, which I think is really fascinating, is how he helped take down a serial pedophile to become that FBI criminal profiler. And, you know, just the cliff notes of this article before we get into it, because we're going to read the majority of it because it is absolutely fascinating. This man was a family prosecutor out in the Bronx in New York. And after he reported that his molester, somebody that was involved in all the keynote groups, he gets molested as a 15-year-old at summer camp. This guy's, of course, in the church. Of course, he's in the Boy Scouts. He's a rough-nosed leader, and he's plying these kids with alcohol, and he's a serial molester. And it's this man, Jim Clemente, that takes him down, and afterwards is recruited into the FBI himself. And again, the church, these organizations, they covered up for this guy, Michael O'Hara. You better believe it. So let's read this one, because this one's really important. Again, it shows you how people can overcome so much. And it's a really important article, in my opinion. A former Bronx prosecutor was recruited into the FBI after he secretly wore a wire that would land his one-time camp counselor who molested him and scores of others in prison. Jim Clemente, 59, retired from the Bureau and is currently a writer for the hit television series Criminal Minds. Before joining the FBI as an agent, he was the New York State prosecutor in Bronx Family Court. In 1985, he received a telephone call from his brother that would change the course of his life. My brother called me. He had seen the movie Something About Amelia, and I think Ted Danson played a sex offender. Clemente told the New York Post. He said he would do something about the director at the camp we were at. Clemente and his brother Tim attended a Catholic youth organization camp in upstate New York. Michael J. O'Hara plied Jim with beer and repeatedly molested him. Now, during this whole event, basically he feels guilt, and what he does, we're going to fast forward through some of this, is he goes to his priest, and, the priest doesn't say report it to the police. Instead, he says do 10 Our Fathers and 10 Hail Marys. Okay? Now, the other thing is that his brother said that he found pictures of this guy molesting all sorts of young boys. Think about this. This guy was also producing child pornography. How abhorrent, how disgusting, how disturbing. Over decades. Okay? So after the phone call with his brother, Jim Clemente, who had not said a word about his experience, this is 1985 or 86, I believe, for a decade, then called the FBI NYPD Joint Task Force on Sexual Exploitation of Children. As I was telling the story, I started shaking, shivering. And that's what real victims of abuse do when they break down and finally tell this. Remember, this guy's a grown man at this point. He's a prosecutor in the Bronx. He reaches out to the FBI. This guy is still at it. And a lot of these victims are made to feel secluded, like they are the only one and that they can't tell. And he felt like he also had pictures of him, which, of course, he did. Clemente described O'Hara, who was also a youth basketball coach, again, putting himself around children all the time, Catholic school teacher, and a Boy Scout leader as a tough love authority figure. O'Hara would often shoot his rifle without warning to scare children, according to Clemente. So there's always the intimidation of physical violence on the side, too, and real physical violence. Guns. Think about that. Clemente recalled that he and O'Hara were often alone in the woods too close to the campground. O'Hara would compliment Clemente, take him out, and give him beer. He would also frequently discuss the topic of sex. I was really embarrassed, he said. I didn't know he was manipulating me. Eventually, he molested me, and he did it again and again. When Clemente returned from the camp, he said, I went to the shower, and I turned the light off, and I just cried. That was the day I kind of withdrew from everybody, okay? And this is where he finds out that this was happening all over, okay? All over. A few months after Clemente reported O'Hara to the authorities, he was asked to help with the investigation. I was like, no effing way. I can't sit down and have a cordial conversation with this guy. But he does, okay? And he gets him on tape talking about this stuff. And he actually gets him to try. I mean, of course, this guy denies it. He's at Fordham University, by the way, okay? Fordham Law School. Well, actually, Clemente graduated from Fordham Law School. I think he's at Fordham University, right? So, you know, he does this. I believe it's in, Halloween 1986. Yes. On the night of Halloween in 1986, Clemente convinced O'Hara to meet with him by saying he was the only person he could turn to for advice. My heart was racing. They gave me some sort of prep talk and instructions. I can remember vividly hearing his own footfalls as I was walking down the street, conscious of every single sound. I can remember people in costumes walking across the street. It was so bizarre. It's going to be one of those moments that's ingrained. Can you imagine this? This guy's not an FBI agent at this time. You know, he's a prosecutor trying to take down his molester. All right? Oh, man. Then O'Hara, who was 43 at the time of the meeting, revealed the extent to which he was a pedophile. O'Hara told Clemente that he had been abusing young boys since he was 19 years old. Think about that. Dennis Hastert, the allegations against him, he's a teacher. He's a wrestling coach. And really, we haven't had any victims come forth after that time. Do you think that Dennis Hastert stopped as he got power? As he was in the Senate? As he became the majority House leader? The Speaker of the House? Do you think so? Of course not. It's because most people never want to talk about this stuff. Period. And God bless this guy for coming out because, you know, we're going to just scroll right down. This guy's victims, all right? This guy's victims, he's dead in 2000, by the way, over 200 young boys. And the first allegations of this guy were made in the 1960s. And it was allowed to go on and on and on and on and on. And this shows you that through the manipulation of religion, power, money, this can happen. And it has happened. And these people need to be brought to justice. The fact that we have such lenient laws on the books right now for people who do this sort of stuff is abhorrent. The fact that the Catholic Church has not cleaned up their act in any way, shape, or form is abhorrent. They've thrown out media and PR bones of bullshit. So I wanted to point out this guy. I think his story is pretty incredible. He's a take charge guy. I know that Criminal Minds is a huge show. I know he's a successful writer. The fact that he did this shows you that you can do what you want. You don't have to be beholden to one horrific event in your lifetime. And that's why, again, everything's not black and white. You know, when we talk about FBI corruption, we also have to talk about agents like this guy that help take down the predators and pedophiles that are extremely real. Extremely real. With that being said, guys, I'm doing 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 videos a day here over at youtube.com/InfoWarrior. So thumbs this video up, share it with others. If you're not a member of the Burmese Brigade, why aren't you? Subscribe now. We're covering all sorts of things. Epstein, Nexium, Bilderberg, Assange, the Israeli spy ring, Bolton, the current situation in Saudi Arabia, the truth about Iran, R. Kelly. And don't forget that we have some blasts from the past from Webster Tarpley, Jordan Maxwell, and others. You can follow me on Twitter. We're going to be talking Tulsi Gabbard later, at Jason Burmis. And folks, I'm doing it with your help and only your help. I don't have a subscribe star. There is no Patreon. There's no bonus content. There's not going to be any private Skype sessions where I go topless and rub my nipples. Look, I give everything I do away for free, $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. It keeps me going through the GoFundMes out there. I thank all of you who have donated. I thank you for that $2 super chat there. Who is this? Mic check, kind of low. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my mic, guys. I'm trying. I don't know. Maybe I have to just reboot my Windows. A lot of people have been telling me that, and it's like over the top high. Maybe I have to uninstall and reinstall my AISO drivers because something went wrong. I will talk to you guys soon, and I'll see you all on the flip.